Hey, good Friday morning, everybody. This is First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Petovich. Quick update as we get ready for the weekend on what's going on with Marie and what's left over for Jose. Jose's technically not a storm anymore. It's what we call a post-tropical storm, but I'll show you what's going to happen with that. The big story, obviously, Maria. But the good news, Maria not a big concern for the East Coast. Let's show you where Maria is right now after it ravaged the islands in the Caribbean through Puerto Rico. It's now kind of hitting the Turks and Caicos in the southern part of the Bahamas. You can see this is what we call the sandwich product, and the eye is not even visible today. It looks like it's showing some signs of further weakening here, but there is a pretty good band of big time storms on the north side of the center, which is right in here somewhere. What we're starting to see is southwesterly wind shear, and what the southwesterly wind shear is doing, it's starting to break up the storm a little bit or cause it to weaken and not be as strong as it was recently. So you can see that the system is kind of ragged looking. It's still a pretty powerful hurricane, but there are probably signs that it's beginning to weaken a little bit as it pushes off towards the northwest at around 15 miles an hour. Here's the forecast track and all of the models. So you can see there's the center of circulation down there, pretty broad wind field from the Turks and Caicos, southern Bahamas. And as it's going to move to the northwest, it's going to start moving more northerly and kind of make this track between the Bahamas and the Carolinas. Now, there's a little wobble back to the west here, but it looks like that's going to be short term. It kind of looks like something similar to Jose did, but I don't think it's going to get as close to the U.S. as Jose did, even though it's going to be weakening. The other thing is it gets up in here, the storm is going to be weakening. It's going to weaken to a Category 1 hurricane, maybe even a tropical storm by the time it gets off the coast of North Carolina and Bermuda. So this is not going to have a direct impact on the U.S., but just like with Jose, it's going to push off some huge swells and likely some big-time rip currents up and down the East Coast as it moves up and pushes away. Let me show you the water vapor loop, because the water vapor loop really tells you a lot about what the steering currents are in the atmosphere. And you can see we've got a weak little trough that's kind of associated with the remnants of Jose and an area in here, but there's also high pressure, which is baking us with the heat. Off to the east, there's another area of high pressure. So there's a nice little window here where it's going to do one of these and then move off to the north and east. I'll show you that ridge to the east, the ridge over the eastern U.S., and this little weakness that Jose has left over. Now, by the way, Jose is no longer a tropical system, but it is a little swirl up there. It's going to weaken quite a bit over time as it pushes off to the north or to the southeast, and then kind of does a little loop, and it looks like it's going to move back out to sea. So let's take a look at the guidance. What does like the European model say? Well, there is a little interaction here with the remnants of Jose. You can see Jose off the east coast there, weakening over time. Watch as it kind of pushes off to the east, and then kind of forces briefly that little turn to the west right here of Marie. So Marie does this little thing, and then that's the remnants of Jose. This is Maria. They do interact just a little bit. And you see a little wobble back to the west of Jose. And then Jose kind of shears out and falls apart. And you'll see Maria, again, going into early next week. And then the middle of the week. This is next Tuesday into Wednesday. And then another stronger trough comes down. You can see that up in here. Right in here, eventually picks it up and pushes it off to the north and east. So there's really no major threat to the east coast of the United States, mainly because this ridge of high pressure is in control right now, and the ridge to the east. The only thing that would really push it to the west would be if this ridge broke down, and that would mean we'd have to be seeing some cooler temperatures. We need a trough in here, or the ridge to the east pushes farther west. It really is a pretty straightforward path, especially when you look at such agreement in all the guidance, all clustered together. It's rare that you see really a 5, 6, 7 day time span where all the guidance is clustered. Now they do spread out up in here, but this is a pretty tightly packed area of guidance, or what we call the models, numerical models. So really, I don't see any threat where this is going to come back to the west at all. The only thing we have to watch for is some big time swells and surf up and down the east coast. The other thing that works in our favor is over time, and I'll show you this real quickly. This is the model comparison. Over time, you can see that the shear is going to increase here, and we're going to see cooler water. The combination of those two is really just going to put the death nail in Maria. So even as it gets closer up here, and if it were to be more to the west, it's going to be dealing with cooler water and wind shear. It's actually going to be in the wake of Jose, which upwelled some cool water. So overall, not a big deal. At least a concern for me right now is not a big deal, because of what we're seeing already in the weakening trend that's already starting to occur. So there's a little look. This is the sandwich product we like to call. I'm going to hide there's the visible band. We throw the infrared on top. And you can see we've got a pretty weak storm right now being impacted by wind shear. So I'll keep you updated. I'm on the air today starting at 4, 5, and 6. The Maria was a big devastating storm for the Caribbean, but it is not going to be the same case for the U.S. Today, the first day of astronomical autumn as well. I'll also be talking about whether we're going to see a cool down. Boy, if we had a heat wave. And thankfully that heat wave is because of a ridge of high pressure, which is helping to keep Maria away from us for now. Thank goodness we didn't have a big trough like we had a couple weeks ago where Maria might have get pulled up into the eastern half of the country. So I'll have details on the heat wave, which is going on the first day of autumn. And of course, we'll have the latest on Maria coming up at 4, 5, and 6 on NBC Charlotte. I'll see you then.